For sinister fishing tales, discover the spine-chilling truths behind haunted waters exposed. Julie could feel the tension in the air as she set up their tent at Lake Whisper. It was supposed to be a peaceful escape, a chance to create memories with her 2 kids on this lush, vibrant shore in Maple Grove. Instead, the locals spun frantic tales around the campfire that sent chills racing down her spine. Fishermen went missing right from this lake, they whispered, eyes glinting with a mix of fear and fascination. A chill crept down her spine as she glanced toward the ominous, dark waters. For fishermen vanished without a trace, their screams swallowed by the deep, someone disclosed, leaving the air thick with dread. This was no ordinary lake. As her children laughed and splashed nearby, Julie felt shadows dancing at the edges of her mind, taunting her with the stories spun from some dark corner of local legend. She forced a smile, trying to absorb their warmth and shake off the gnawing anxiety. "Let us explore the shore," she encouraged, desperately wishing to push the fear away. At dusk, the laughter died, replaced by an unsettling silence only broken by the occasional plop of a fish jumping, splashing water that seemed to echo like distant cries. Strange noises reverberated across the lake, soft murmurs rising like mist. Boats jostled back to shore, their occupants shaken, adrenaline evident in their wide eyes. Julie's heart pounded harder in her chest as she spotted the anxious glances exchanged between the neighbors. Something was not right. "Everything okay?" she asked one woman, her voice betraying her unease. The woman smiled stiffly, the fear lurking behind her eyes, answered Julia's question with a heavy silence. As darkness enveloped the campground, a shiver ran through her. Something wicked lurked beneath the water. The next day promised fishing under the bright sun, a reprieve from last night's tension. Julie drew in a breath, determined to banish the horror. Yet, even as they cast their lines, the knots of dread twisted tighter. Her son suddenly let out a cheer. His line had caught something heavy. He reeled it in, only for what emerged to drop them into icy silence. An old rusted fishing charm etched with cryptic warnings. The locals recoiled, exchanging whispered glances, their smiles fading into anxious whispers. "Maybe we should leave," Julie murmured, chill crawling up her spine. But before she could object, her son wandered too close to the secluded cove, just out of sight. Minutes passed. Heart racing, she called for him. Panic surged, and before long, her voice became a frantic scream. He was gone. "Where's my son?" she pleaded, eyes wild, scanning the gazes of her neighbors. But their silence spoke volumes, a chilling communion of complicity. A knot twisted in her stomach, realizing their neighborly faces masked a shared burden of horror, a dark secret woven into the fabric of the lake. Desperation consumed her as she recalled snippets of the legends. Were they warnings or perhaps something darker? As she combed the campsite, she stumbled upon a neglected journal, the pages revealing the truth of a revered figure who manipulated the lake's supernatural allure, luring unsuspecting families to their doom. The wooden dock creaked ominously beneath her as the revelation pulsed with danger. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As dawn's first light crept over the horizon, shadows twisted menacingly across the lake's surface. Julie's heart raced with determination. This wasn't just about a weekend trip anymore. It was about saving her child from the clutches of something sinister. Standing at the water's edge, she felt the lake's call, an echo of forgotten souls that dared her to approach, to uncover what lay beneath. Would she manage to overcome this looming dread and rescue her son? Or would the darkness of the lake consume them both? Only time would tell as the haunting waters rippled, holding secrets they had yet to uncover. The sun clawed its way above the horizon, casting an eerie glow over Lake Whisper. Julia's heart pounded like a war drum in her chest as she studied the surface, every ripple a potential reflection of her son's ghostly presence. The air was thick with an unnatural stillness, as if the world itself had paused, holding its breath in anticipation of her next move. She stepped closer to the water's edge, the cool breeze biting at her skin. "I won't give up," she whispered, clinging to the tiny flicker of hope smoldering inside her. Panic clawed at her throat as she recalled the faces of her neighbors, their eyes flickering with trepidation. Did they know something she didn't? The journal still lay heavy in her hands, and she flipped through the pages frantically, searching for more clues. Descriptions of the lake's history danced before her. Fishermen lured by whispers, families that never returned, lurking shadows that claimed lives. "What have you done?" she murmured, feeling the weight of those lost souls pressing down on her. Each ink-stained word seemed alive, throbbing with sinister intent. Suddenly, a low rumble broke the silence, followed by the creaking of the dock beneath her. Julie froze, her breath caught in her throat. Stepping back, she steadied herself as fear threatened to crumble her resolve. Was it just the wind? Or was someone watching her from the depths? "Mom!" The cry pierced through the fog of dread. It was her daughter, Lily, standing a few feet away, eyes wide with confusion. "Where's Jake?" "Lily." Julie's heart leaped. I don't know. Stay close." Panic surged anew, mixing with the whirlwind of determination. She couldn't lose another child. As she pulled Lily tight against her side, Julie could barely hear the whispers growing louder, like a cacophony of half-formed thoughts echoing through the trees. The locals' eyes were fixed on the water, transfixed by something unseen lurking beneath the surface. They understood the terror that she now grappled with. They had faced it but chosen to remain silent. The breeze picked up, swirling around them, carrying an aroma of damp earth mixed with something putrid. The hairs on her arms stood on end as the air thickened, morphing the fog into shapes that rippled and shifted beyond the edges of her comprehension. Beneath it all, there was something, a presence waiting beneath the surface, lurking in the depths. "Mom, I'm scared." Lily trembled beside her, breaking Julie's frantic focus. She knelt, looking into her daughter's frightened eyes. "I know, honey, but we have each other. We'll find Jake. I promise." Julie's voice was strong, masking the despair that threatened to pull her under. With Lily firmly in grip, they began pacing the shore. But the whispers grew louder, now sounding less like wind and more like the anguished cries of lost souls, resonating in a terrible harmony. Julie's heart raced, straining against the weight of impending darkness. Then the ground trembled slightly, and they both stumbled. What was that? A wave rippled through the lake, unsettling the water's surface. An old, wrought iron fishing lure bobbed to the top, glimmering malevolently in the sunlight. For a fraction of a second, it looked as if the lake heaved in response to an unseen command. Julie gasped, her heart racing faster. The local stories, could they be true? Did the lake possess an intelligence, a darkness that bound the fishermen's souls forever? "Mom, look," Lily pointed, voice shaking. Julie followed her gaze just in time to see a shadow dart beneath the surface, moving too fast. An icy chill gripped her heart. The water rippled again, violent this time, and then the calm resumed as quickly as it had disturbed. "Mom, what is happening?" Lily's voice trembled, matching the horror reconvening in Julie's chest. The echo of Jake's laughter hung in the air, mingled with the dread and despair. Julie reached for her daughter's hand tighter, resolve steeled. "We will find him," she said, but doubt gnawed at her. Did she dare enter the cursed waters? Just as she was ready to make a desperate move, a voice, a low, gritty whisper broke through the chaos. "Join us." The lake rippled violently, as if awakening a monstrous presence confined beneath its surface, one that yearned for new souls. Julie froze, dread seeping deeper into her bones. What would she do now? The choice loomed heavily. Would she risk it all for one last chance to save Jake? The haunting waters awaited her answer, unfurling their sinister secrets like a dark, shimmering blanket. Julia's pulse thundered in her ears, drowning out the whispers that clawed at her mind. Join us. The voice slithered through the air, wrapping around her like a serpent. Every instinct screamed for her to run, but she couldn't. Not without Jake. Lily, she breathed, pressing her daughter closer. The fear in her chest felt suffocating, as if the lake itself were reaching for them, hungry and pleading. Stay behind me. The surface churned again. This time, dark shapes broke free, twisting like phantoms beneath the water. Julie squinted, straining to see. Were they just her imagination, or had the depths revealed fragments of those lost to the lake? The unbearable thought twisted in her stomach, a knot of terror that refused to loosen. Mom, I can see it. Lily's eyes bulged, fixated on the water. Julie's gaze darted back, heart racing. A shadow emerged, gliding eerily through the murky depths. It didn't resemble a fish or a log. It was something else entirely, long and serpentine, glistening with a slick layer of darkness. The local stories raced back to her. The lost children, the vanished families. Did the lake hold their secrets so tightly that it became a monster, feeding on despair? A scream broke through the mounting dread, sending the hairs on her neck into a frenzy. Nearby, some locals had gathered on the dock, their faces twisted in horror as they pointed towards the lake. It's back. The serpent. Get back. The terror spread like wildfire. Mom! Lily grasped her hand tighter. What do we do? Run! Julie shouted, grabbing Lily as she turned. But a sudden chill wrapped around them. The ground trembled violently beneath their feet. The dock creaked ominously, splintering into jagged pieces as fear tipped into panic. Please join us, the voice called again, more insistent this time, laced with a seductive undertone that gripped at Julia's heart. The whispers crescendoed into a frenzy, a chorus of voices rising from the depths. Julie stumbled backward, dragging Lily with her. The world felt unstable, as if the very air had sense of dread alive within. Mom! I can't. Lily's eyes brimmed with tears. I don't want to go in. Please, don't let it take us. Julie's heart shattered at the sight of her daughter's fear. She fought through her own panic, making one last desperate plea. Jake, if you can hear me, please come back. But in response, the lake thrashed, bubbles rising like broken secrets from the abyss. The voices filled her with visceral horrors. Each echo pulled at old memories, echoing stories of townsfolk swallowed, taken, never to return. The water surged up, splashing against them with violent intent. Mom! It's coming! Lily screamed, eyes wide with unfathomable terror. Julie could see it now. The shadow was rising, breaking the surface like the maw of a great beast. Scales glistening, eyes hungry. It dripped with lake water, dark as despair, and a part of her wanted to step forward, to dive deeper, believing it could offer answers. No, she shook her head, forcing through the terror. We need to leave, now. With every ounce of strength, Julie turned away from the ravenous form emerging from the water. They stumbled, adrenaline fueling their escape as the dock beneath them quaked, echoing with ancient wrath. A sudden roar vibrated through the air, and as she raced past the throng of panicked faces, Julie could feel the weight of the lake's wrath bearing down on her. Fear echoed in every heart around her, in each frantic look cast back towards the water's churn. Mom! We can't leave Jake! The urgency in Lily's voice cut through, threading a desperate needle of hope amid the chaos. We'll find him! Julie shouted over her shoulder, even if her own conviction felt fragile. Then, she saw something, a glimmer of red in the water's wake, a backpack, soaked and heavy. Jake's bag. Panic surged within her, but the overwhelming pressure of the lake's presence pulsed like thunder, shaking her resolve. Should she dive in, risk everything for her son? The whispers shifted into screams, clawing at her mind, teasing the edges of her sanity. Mom! Help! Julie turned back toward the water, desperate and torn. She couldn't choose, waylaid by the grasping fear of loss and the haunting call of the lake. What awaited her on the other side? The promise of answers or the fool's embrace of inviting despair? Just as she was about to scream for Jake again, a mighty wave crashed high, drenching all of them and effectively silencing the calls. As the spray settled, a figure broke free just beneath the surface. "What is it?" she gasped, as the water shifted again, revealing a face within its depths. Was it Jake? Or had the lake claimed yet another soul? The answer lingered in the air, heavy with unspoken dread, leaving Julie wide-eyed and desperate, caught between choice and consequence, teetering on the edge of oblivion. The figure slipped below the surface, leaving behind only a glimmer of hope and a trail of ripples that danced in the twilight. Panic clawed at Julie's insides, twisting tighter with each passing second. "Jake!" she shouted, but the water just whispered back, as if mocking her with the echoes of his name. "Mom, what was that?" Lily pressed, her small hand trembling in Julie's grip. I don't know," Julie replied, her voice barely above a whisper. The fear settled in her throat like a cold stone. The crowd around them had begun to back away, their eyes wide with a mix of fear and curiosity, each person frozen between the instincts to flee and the morbid desire to witness whatever horror was unfolding. The air turned dense, a mix of dread and the faint smell of damp earth. From the depths came a sound, low and rolling, like thunder grumbling beneath the lake. Julie felt the hair on her arms stand up, a primal warning spurring her heart into a frantic drumbeat. "Mom, we have to go." Lily tugged at her, but Julie remained rooted, her instincts caught in a violent riptide of conflicting desires. She couldn't see Jake, but his backpack, still barely afloat nearby, felt like a lifeline. "Just take a step back." A voice sliced through the chaos. It was an elder from town, creased and wrinkled, eyes dark as the depths themselves. "The lake doesn't want us here. Not today." Julie turned to look at him, desperation flooding her veins. "But Jake, he might be in there. Best leave it be," he barked, raising a gnarled finger. "You don't understand. Many have tried. The lake's hunger cannot be sated by mere offerings." His words felt like poison dripping into her ear. A part of her wanted to scream, another wanted to believe. But the shadows stirring beneath the surface, the way the water churned as though it were breathing, made her heart drop. Was this how entire families had been claimed? Did they come here, believing they'd find solace, and instead, they found despair? "Lily," Julie whispered urgently, pulling her closer, "we need to get back to the car. This is not safe." She could feel the weight of the lake's eerie gaze bearing down on them, sensing their fear, feeding on it. "Mom, what if Jake's in there?" Lily cried, her voice cracking. As Julie was about to reply, a loud crash echoed from the water. The surface erupted in a spray of dark liquid, and from it, a shape emerged. Not just one, but many figures dripping in shadow, faces twisted in agony, mouths silently screaming. The water had borne them. The lake had claimed them. Frozen, terror washed over Julie. "What are they?" she gasped, stepping back, breaking the enchantment of horror. "They are the lost," the old man said, voice trembling but resolute. "Once joined to the lake, they cannot willingly return. They came for their children, but instead," his voice trailed off, the implication suffocating. "Mom!" Lily screamed, her eyes wide with terror, pulling at Julie's jeans. "We have to run." Feeling the firm grasp of her daughter pulling her back to reality, Julie turned, forcing her feet to move. They tore away from the grasp of the lake, the whispers escalating into a frantic cacophony that chased them. But just as Julie thought they were free, she glanced back. The faces in the water, oh, the faces. They twisted and churned, reaching out with bony hands as if desperate to pull her back. Their eyes, hollow yet filled with a madness, beckoned with both a warning and a cry for help. She nearly stumbled as she turned away, dread flooding her heart. But what if she didn't save Jake? The lake pulled at her, clawing at her sanity. Then Julie was jolted back into the moment when Lily tugged her hard. "Look!" Julie's breath hitched as she turned her head just enough to see the figure breaking the surface once more. This time it was clearer. A boy, his chestnut hair sticking to his forehead. "Mom!" Her heart dropped. "Jake?" But as he rose, she saw it wasn't just him. The shadows surged around him, pulling him back, wrapping around his arms, dragging him down with a feral hunger. The lake had released him to lure her in. "Mom! Help!" Jake cried, his voice cutting across the rising chaos. A horror deeper than the lake itself settled in Julie, always spinning, always reaching, always hungry. What price would she pay to save him? With every ounce of strength, she tore herself from Lily's side, ready to lunge back toward the water. But something else burst forth, rising behind them. The crowd gasped collectively, and in her peripheral, she saw horror unfold, not just a boy fighting against the water, but something much more terrible and ancient. "Get back!" Julie screamed, heart pounding as she reached for Jake. Another wave crashed, drowning the last echo of the girl's name. The lake roared, ready to claim what it wanted. What was to become of them now? Would they join the whispers? As she churned through the terror, a finger of shadow broke the surface, once more pointing at her. Single-minded, determined. The serpent was far worse than she imagined. The water writhed like a living thing. Julie's heart thundered in her chest as she saw Jake's terrified face twisting in supplication, desperation radiating from his eyes. Her instincts screamed at her to save him, to reach out, but the gnarly hands clawing up from the depths made her feet feel rooted in concrete. "Mom, please!" His voice sliced through the air, and for a moment, she was almost fooled, almost ready to plunge into the frigid horror and rescue him from the abyss. But then the shadows thickened around Jake, the water roiling in unnatural waves, as if it were alive and hungry. Julie staggered back, dragging Lily along with her, who was wide-eyed, struggling against the pull of dread that nearly suffocated them both. "Get back! All of you!" the old man shouted, his feeble voice strained beneath the weight of the lake's menace. "It's awakening! Clear the shore!" But the crowd was entranced. They stood as if spellbound, witnessing a horror story they could only begin to understand. They couldn't tear their eyes away. Each gasp echoed in Julie's ears like thunder. "Take my hand!" Julie screamed to Jake, but even as she reached out, she saw the shift in his eyes. The boy she knew was slipping away, lost in the grip of whatever haunted that lake. Fear gave way to a blank stare, a vacancy where Jake had been. The shadows pulled tighter, dragging Jake below the surface, his cries warping into soundless pleas. "No!" Julie stumbled as Lily tightened her grip on her mother's shirt. The little girl's face was ghostly pale, reflecting the tremors of terror thrumming through Julie. "Mom, we have to go now," Lily pleaded. "Please." The old man stepped closer, his wiry frame trembling. "You can't fight it. It's alive." It hungers. His eyes darted toward the water, and for the first time, they glimmered with a frantic understanding. "Those who enter rarely return." "No!" Julie shouted, her voice cutting through the drenched air. She couldn't give up on Jake. "I'll get him back. I'll fight whatever this is." But even as she said it, a chill slithered down her spine. What if the lake had already feasted on her son's will? A violent crash echoed from the depths, more chaotic than the last, and clogged the air with mist and anticipation. The shadowy figures began to rise, inching closer, as if they were drawn to her resolve. Barnacled hands reached for her, mouths agape in silent screams as if trapped in a nightmare. "Mom!" It was a different voice this time. It sent her head reeling, for it was not Jake's. The water roared, drowning out the frantic breaths of the crowd. "Help! Get me out!" Another figure burst free, this one larger, with sinewy limbs covered in dark water. Anxiety clawed at her throat as its face neared the shoreline. "Stay back," Julie warned, adrenaline thrumming through her. She turned to the crowd, overcome with disbelief. "Help me! We need to pull them out." But the crowd had frozen, watching those grotesque forms spill forth, fascinated and horrified. Shadows became figures that moved with ghastly grace, teasing her with the promise of familiar faces twisted by despair. "Help!" cried out again, but this voice was unfamiliar. An older boy. Maybe? Another child lost in the depths. The shadows began to meld together, the lake bubbling, frothing, as if it were gripped by violent laughter. Julie's heart raced. They were all trapped in this moment. Somehow, this lake had lured them all to the edge of despair, choking on the fear that thrived within them. "Just leave, please," the elder yelled. "It's a trap." But she could hardly hear him over the whirling chaos that was spiraling closer. With a wild determination surging within her, Julie stepped forward, intent on facing the monstrous truth that loomed over them. "I won't leave you," she shouted, hands shaking as she felt the cold water lap around her ankles. And just then, as if sensing her resolve, the waters erupted violently, drawing every tortured soul upward. Julie staggered back, bile rising in her throat at the sight. Emerging from the darkness was a frightful apparition, a grotesque mimicry of Jake's face but twisted, warped. Its mouth grinned wide, filled with the echo of laughter that shattered the silence. "Come play with us, Mom," it hissed, voice a sickening parody of her son's. Her vision blurred as empty eyes fixed on her, filling her with nausea. Panic clawed at her, battering the edges of her sanity. What had become of Jake? What evil had she stumbled into? And as the ground trembled beneath their feet, illuminating the horrors that danced in the depths, she felt all sense of safety erode like the shores of the cursed lake around them. "Run!" The warning echoed through her mind as she turned to Lily, but it was too late. The figures advanced in a twisted parade, and the shadows wrapped around her, pulling her inward. In that split second, it became undeniable. The lake had awoken an even deeper horror than she could have imagined. But just as they were about to be consumed, a light flickered overhead, illuminating the chaos. And now, something even darker began to materialize from the shadows. What was coming for them now? The light flickered again, illuminating the chaos, casting eerie shadows on the shoreline. It revealed twisted forms thrashing in the water, faces distorted in a dance of torment. The grotesque reflection of her son's playfulness resurfaced as the face of the thing that had once been Jake grinned wide, its eyes now voids that promised only suffering. "Mom, come play!" The haunting chant rose, echoing in her ears like a siren's call, pulling her closer to the abyss. Every instinct in Julie screamed for her to flee, yet her feet sank deeper into the cold, wet earth, entranced by the nightmare that threatened to unravel her sanity. "Stay back," she shouted, shaking her head as if that would erase the horror. But the other figures were coming closer now, wheeling and swarming like insects drawn to a flame. Each distorted plea melded into a chorus of desperation, making it impossible to distinguish the voices anymore. "Don't look at them, Lily." She turned to her daughter, who stood trembling, eyes wide with fear. The old man had retreated slightly, his frail body trembling as he stumbled backward. "Run, sweet girl. We have to get away." Lily nodded, but remnants of fear anchored her, keeping her frozen in place. Just then, the air grew heavy with a familiar scent, like wet earth and decay, swarming around them. It crawled under Julie's skin, igniting a visceral panic. It felt alive, hungry. "Run!" She screamed again, gripping Lily's hand with a fierce intensity. They stumbled back, inching away from the shoreline, grappling with the muck and debris that clung to their shoes. The old man's voice grew louder. "The trees they won't help. Only bind you to this place." Julie could barely comprehend his words. The figures surged closer, the mocking laughter morphing into a cacophony that echoed through the forest. Shadows slinked along the ground, ominously stretching and compressing like a living thing, feeding off their fear. "Climb!" Julie yelled, spotting a large, gnarled tree to the left, its roots protruding like skeletal hands. "We can hide up there." They sprinted toward it, determined to escape the nightmarish grasp of the lake. As they reached the tree, a deafening roar erupted from the water, splashing violently. The figures recoiled momentarily, darting back as if the lake itself rebelled against them. Seizing the chance, Julie hoisted Lily to the lowest branch. "Hold on tight." Lily scrambled up, fingers grasping for safety. Julie followed, her heart pounding as she swung herself up with a desperate leap. They settled on the thick branch, breathing heavily, their bodies trembling with exhaustion and terror. From their perch, they could see the chaos below. Twisted bodies writhed along the shoreline, the laughter now a twisted cacophony, coalescing into something even more frightening, a single commanding voice that rose from the depths, pulsing with malevolence. "Leave the girl. Come to me," it bellowed, dripping with malice that chilled Julie to the bone. "Bring her back or suffer the fate of your son." Julie's heart sank. They were bargaining with some unholy force, tethering them to a collective dread that reached deep into their souls. The murmurs of the crowd dwindled, lost in a blend of panic and despair, while that voice wound its way through their very beings. "What do we do?" Lily whimpered, clutching her mother's arm. "I don't know, honey," Julie gasped, her breath ragged. "We can't go down. Not yet. We need a plan." But just as hope faltered, the shadows began to pull back, revealing a clear path heading deeper into the woods. The trees swayed ominously, whispering as if calling to them. Follow, it was a trap or maybe a lifeline. The darkness in the woods pulsed, inviting them toward the unknown. "Should we risk it?" Julie murmured, her voice barely above a whisper. Before she could answer, the echoing laughter rose again, morphed into shrieking wails that rattled her bones. The trees creaked, groaning under the weight of a decision they could not afford to make. And just as the grip of uncertainty tightened, a shadow broke free from the water, a figure neither fully formed nor entirely human. It twisted around, facing them with baleful intent, blocking all escape. "Playing is better down here," the voice taunted, brazen with twisted glee. Julie gritted her teeth. "We won, let you take us." But uncertainty loomed larger. The specters of lost souls began to advance once more, each step resonating with dread, every face a haunting reminder of their fate. Desperation surged through her. "Hold on tight," she shouted to Lily, but deep down, she wondered if there was any safety left in the world, or if all hope had truly been swallowed by the lake. As the shadows drew nearer, and light flickered from the unknown woods, one thing became tragically clear. Whatever came next would change everything. Could they survive what lay ahead? Or were they destined to join the tortured songs that echoed from the depths? The forest loomed dark and thick, a labyrinth of secrets that whispered in the wind. Julie tightened her grip on Lily, the icy tendrils of fear curling around her heart. The mocking voice loomed close, drifting through the trees, promising more than just tangled roots and twisted branches. The laughter morphed into something sinister, echoing around them, filling the air with dread. "Playing is better down here," it mocked again, and Julie could almost feel the hunger lurking beneath. She had heard tales of these woods, of spirits caught between the worlds, but never had she imagined that she would be entangled in such horror. Mom, Lily's voice trembled, barely breaking through the cacophony. "What if we don't make it?" Julie's heart twisted painfully in her chest. "We will make it," she whispered fiercely, though every word felt weighted with uncertainty. She shifted her gaze to the beckoning darkness of the forest path, seemingly inviting them into its depths. What lay beyond was the only option. One last look at the figures struggling in the water. Their enormity seemed to ripple even as the tree swayed beneath them. "Follow," the lingering whisper pulsed. It felt dangerously intimate, laced with promises that crushed against reason. The specters transformed, their faces twisting into grotesque imitations of her past, of family ties that felt more like chains. "Stay with me," she urged. She had to make Lily see that the tree was but a temporary shelter. "We have to go." Fear brightened in Lily's eyes, but she nodded, ready yet reluctant. As they began to climb down, the screeches from the lake erupted again. A desperate plea turned into a furious roar. The air grew chill, so frigid it felt as if the bones of the earth snapped in half. With every branch they descended, it felt as though the shadows were stretching, clawing to grab them back into the abyss. "Now!" Julie shouted, and they jumped, landing soft and muddy on the forest floor. The path lay ahead, eerily illuminated by an otherworldly glow that slithered like smoke through the trees. Almost instinctively, they took a step toward it, but a noise halted them. A deep, guttural growl reverberated through the air. as if some unseen monster lurked just beyond. "Don't stop," Julie hissed, pulling Lily closer. Each step felt heavy, the earth spongy beneath their feet, as if it were swallowing them whole. The further they moved into the woods, the more unsettling the atmosphere became. Shadows flitted around them, flickering out of the corners of her eyes. They traversed deeper, the cries of the lake haunting them even in the thick foliage. Every rustle of leaves sent electric jolts of alarm through Julie. "What if they follow us?" Lily squeaked, fear palpable in her voice. "Then we run faster." Julie pushed back the chill creeping over her nerves. "Keep your eyes on me." The faint light ahead was growing, pulsing, urging them onward like a beacon, but it didn't erase the feeling of being hunted. Suddenly, the laughter erupted again, laced with malice. Julie's breath caught in her throat. The figures were not far behind them. "What do we do? Trust me," Julie pleaded, as they pressed forward, driven by an instinct thicker than fear. Then came a flash, a glimpse through the trees that stopped her heart. A cabin emerged before them, dilapidated and half-hidden beneath the roots and branches. It looked abandoned, weather-beaten, but something about it called out to them with a sense of safety or perhaps a dread more potent than the shadows behind. "Mom, wait!" Lily halted, suddenly gripped by uncertainty. "What if it's just another trap? Fortress or tomb?" Julie snapped, not caring for her own trembling hands. "We have no time. We need to see if we can hide. Stay close." But even as they approached, the air crackled with warnings. The doorway stood ajar, whispering to them with each gust of wind. Dread churned in Julia's stomach, but they couldn't linger outside, not with the figures rising up again from the lake, lips curled into sinister smiles. Inside the cabin, darkness pooled in corners, yet something shimmered strangely, a flicker of light that cut through the gloom. But shadows crept at their heels, chittering unintelligible torments, and Julie felt the weight of eternities press down upon her shoulders. If they entered, would they seal their fate or find respite? "Come on, now or never." As they crossed the threshold, the door creaked shut behind them with an ominous thud, silencing the laughter for a heartbeat, but not the fear that twisted in Julie's gut. What lay ahead was no longer just about escape. It was a journey into deeper nightmares, and as chilling laughter echoed once more, she realized they might have just stepped from one hell into another. What waited for them inside? Would it hold salvation? Or would they find something much worse than the shadows they left behind? The cabin felt alive, breathing in the shadows that cloaked it. Julie's heart raced as she scanned the dim light flickering around the room. The heat of their bodies mingled with the chill of the air, creating an unbearable tension they couldn't shake. "Where do we go?" Lily whispered, her voice a wisp against the oppressive silence. Just stay close." Julie's voice trembled, her instincts screaming at her to retreat, yet they pressed deeper into the gloom. The beam of light danced erratically from a single candle flickering on a rickety table, illuminating what appeared to be an ancient map spread out like a grotesque promise. The parchment was stained, edges frayed as if it had survived centuries of torment. Symbols writhed across the surface as she leaned closer. She could feel the air thickening, swirling in a way that suffocated her spirit. "What's that?" Lily asked, trembling. "Something important." Yet the weight of despair crushed her confidence. A sudden crash echoed through the cabin, sending them both into a defensive stance. Julie's heart pounded. "Did you hear that?" Lily nodded. Fear radiated from her small frame. They peered towards the far corner where shadows pooled thickest, hiding whatever threat might be lurking within. "Maybe it's just the wind?" Lily's voice was a fragile thread, desperately searching for comfort. "It's not just the wind." Julie swallowed hard as she heard a soft, insidious laugh tugging at the darkness. It seemed to slither around them, playful yet menacing. "We can hide in here." Lily pointed to a small cupboard. With a forceful push, Julie grabbed her hand and pulled her toward it. "No, we can't hide. We have to find a way out." Then, another crash resonated, this time louder. Dust rained from the cabin's beams, breathing life into the eerie stillness. Julie knew better than to hope that whatever was disturbing the quiet came from anything but fearsome intentions. "Follow me." She led them to a window. The glass was fogged, but beyond, the night was alive with movement. Wisps of fog curled like fingers reaching for something intangible, something only the cabin could hold. As they pressed against the glass, their breath fogged it further, revealing apparitions darting through the trees outside, their faces mere blurs. They seemed caught between this world and the next. Whispers clawed at Julie's consciousness, too faint to understand but too familiar to dismiss. "Mom, I don't want to see them." Lily quivered, burying her face against Julie's side. "I know." It was becoming clear. The woods now encircled them like predators realizing their prey had stumbled into a snare. Then came a soft rustle near the door, a sinister presence heralded by a series of sharp knocks. Each sound reverberated through Julie, igniting primal fear. "Open up." A voice slithered through the cracks, low and beckoning, as though it were an old friend. "Let us in, Julie, let us come play." Her body stiffened at the mention of her name. Nothing in the woods could know her. Not like this. The laughter echoed again, a cruel echo of her broken past. "Get back," she shouted, stepping in front of Lily, heart racing, ready to fight. "Please." Another voice chimed, softer, coaxing. "We've been waiting, just let us join you. We mean no harm." In that moment, the door rattled violently, the entity on the other side clawing for entrance. They could feel it, a dread clawing at the walls, seeking an invitation. "No!" Julie screamed. But as she yelled, the candle flickered violently. Shadows lengthened, swirling around them like living smoke, intensifying the oppressive atmosphere. "Mom, what do we do?" Lily whimpered, fear clinging to her like a thick fog. Just as Julie prepared to yell again, the cabin erupted in a cacophony of whispers, 1,000 voices rising in a fevered chant. "Come out, come play." Walls of fear encased them, suffocating. They needed an escape, but from where? As the voices swelled, building towards a fever pitch, Julie felt her resolve falter. The walls seemed to pulse with the heartbeat of the shadows, faster, stronger. It's too late. A whisper curled around her heart, enveloping her mind. But then, a glint caught her eye beside the hearth, a trapdoor barely visible in the dark. "Lily, over here." Without a moment of hesitation, they rushed to it, driven by raw instinct. They had to break the cycle, escape whatever horror has taken root within this cursed cabin. Julie yanked the door open. Sudden cool air rushed up, swirling around their ankles like a promise of freedom. But as they stepped closer, the laughter morphed into unholy rage. "No!" The voices screamed, and the shadows thickened, coiling and constricting like a serpent ready to strike. What lay beneath the darkness pulling at their feet could promise salvation or drag them into an even darker abyss. "Don't look back," Julie urged as they jumped into the unknown, the cabin's last breaths evaporating behind them. Would they find safety below? Or was it simply another trap set by more malevolent spirits? Only the darkness would unveil its secrets as the door slammed shut behind them, sealing their fate. Cold air enveloped them as they hit the ground below. The trapdoor slammed shut above, plunging them into a darkness that felt alive. Julie's breath caught in her throat as panic set in, the oppressive silence wrapping tightly around them, heavy with the weight of unknown horrors. "Where are we?" Lily whispered, her voice quivering in the void. "Not sure, but we have to keep moving." Julie's heart thundered in her chest. She could feel the shadows shifting, almost lurking, waiting for their next move. As they ventured forward, tentative footsteps broke the stillness. The air was thick with the smell of damp earth and decay. Occasional thuds echoed against the walls, sending shivers down Julia's spine. Each step felt like an invitation to something unseen. "Mom, what if they come down after us?" A chill ran through Julie. They can't fit," she assured, but no doubt clung to her words. Suddenly, a low growl rumbled from behind, vibrating through the ground like a distant thunder. Julie froze, her instincts screaming. "Lily, run!" she shouted, grabbing her daughter's hand. propelling them forward as their boots splashed into puddles that screamed of depth. The sound echoed down the passage, a call of desperation. They raced through the darkness, desperately searching for a way out. Walls dripped with moisture, and the path turned sharp and narrow. Shadows danced just out of sight, teasing their senses, whispering taunts. "What if they find us?" Lily's voice cracked, fear mingling with the air. "We won't let them," Julie replied, but panic began to seep through her resolve. She could feel an urge to look back, but the weight of their fears pushed her onward. Then the path opened up into a cavernous chamber, its vast emptiness washing over them like waves. Julie's eyes strained to see what lay beyond. Craggy rocks rose like jagged teeth, and scattered over the ground were remnants of what looked like old bones. The air vibrated with something malevolent, as if countless restless spirits wandered here, trapped within the confines of this forsaken place. "What is this place?" Lily asked, her voice trembling. "Just keep moving," Julie urged. They made their way through the chamber, each footstep feeling like a challenge to whatever lurked in the shadows. As they moved deeper, strange markings were etched into the damp walls, cryptic symbols that matched the map they had seen back in the cabin. Recognition twisted in her gut. This isn't right. This is where it all leads. Her thoughts were interrupted when the growl from before resonated again. Closer this time, filled with an unnatural hunger. The silence burst like a balloon as something shifted behind a rock formation. Julie's heart sank when glowing eyes broke through the blackness, two orbs fixated on them like a predator sizing up its prey. "Mom, run!" She grabbed Lily, instinct overriding rational thought. They tore through the chamber, frantic and desperate as walls closed in around them. The growls morphed into shrieks, an orchestra of torment echoing through the cavern, each note clawing at the edges of their minds. "No!" Julie screamed as she felt the ground tremble, the very earth alive with accursed rage. "We'll find a way out." But as they sprinted, the path ahead splintered into a series of twisting tunnels, each darkened exit flickering like a haunting question mark. It was a labyrinth, one that felt crafted to confuse, to ensnare them in a web of torment. The darkness deepened, and with it, so did the cacophony of wails and laughter echoing from the shadows. "Which way?" Lily cried, her breath ragged. "Just pick one." As they veered into a narrow tunnel, Julie felt the darkness close in, 1,000 eyes watching, judging. They sprinted further into the gloom, voices rising in a frenetic chorus. "Join us! Come play!" Their whispers echoed, wretched and mocking, twining around their hearts, seeking their very essence. A sudden crash sounded behind them, forcing them to keep running. Julie's mind raced. Where could they possibly go? Wherever they turned, the air felt thicker, suffocating. They were being hunted, and the hunt was becoming a reality. Then, as if the darkness had conspired against them, the tunnel opened into a broad chamber, again this one different, its edges shimmering with an ethereal light. A vast pool of water spread across the floor, its surface surprisingly clear. But the moment Julie glimpsed into the depths, her blood ran cold. Shadows swam beneath the surface, indistinct forms that writhed and twisted as if eager for freedom. "Mom, what's in there?" "I don't know." Lily just then. A serpent-like figure broke the surface, its glistening body reflecting the light. It rose higher, its eyes locking onto Julie with pure malice. "Join us," it hissed, its voice like ice. What choice do they have now? Which way would lead to salvation, and which would lead to total despair? With dread pooling in her stomach, Julie saw a grim decision lay ahead. They needed to act fast, but at what cost? As the creature lunged forward, Julie felt the true nature of fear grip her heart. Would they escape this living nightmare? Or would they join the anguished souls forever trapped beneath the surface? A shudder echoed in the darkness, and as fate flicked its cruel hand, the true horror was about to unfold. The air in the chamber grew dense and suffocating, wrapping around Julie and Lily like a noose. The serpent rose up, its scales shimmering with a grotesque beauty, captivating and deadly. Julie felt the darkness clawing at her sanity, whispering promises of doom that wrapped around her heart like a vice. In that moment, Julie saw not just a creature, but a sentinel of the lake, an embodiment of every lost soul sacrificed to the depths. The faces of children tormented by the twisted fate resonated within her, each belief they once clung to now a fragmented memory. The chilling whispers echoed, "Join us," sweetening their entreaty, with echoes of familiar laughter twisted beyond recognition. "Lily, listen to me," she whispered fiercely, panic coursing like fire through her veins. "Whatever you do, don't look away from me. We have to keep moving." But her heart felt heavy, tied to the horror that awaited them. Before they had time to consider their next move, the serpent lunged again, water splashing fiercely as it snapped its jaws, teeth gleaming in the submerged light. The figure twisted with surprising agility, reminiscent of the both terror and thrill of a dance choreographed under the moonlight. Instinct took over. Her feet pounded against the slick floor as they darted back into the narrow tunnel from which they had come. "They're coming," Lily screamed, the tremor in her voice syncing with the harrowing wails that rang out from behind, both frightening and familiar. Shadows swelled, pressing against them, ever hungry to claim their souls. Julie's breaths turned ragged as they plunged into the darkened passage, desperate to find solace, terrified to look back. "Pick a direction, Lily," she shouted, but Lily's whimpers echoed like lost hopes, drowning in the overwhelming fear surrounding them. The girls rounded a corner, barreling deeper into the heart of the labyrinth. "Mom, I don't want to play anymore," Lily cried, tears streaming down her cheeks as the darkness pulsed around them, drawn to their fear like moths to a flame. "We won, T. You hear me? We will find Jake." Julie's determination fueled her feet as they pressed on, weaving through sharp turns and low ceilings entwined with unseen roots that reached out to trip them. Eventually, they approached a faint light flickering in the distance, drawing them near. Hope lit up their senses, but with it came the weight of something ominous lurking behind them. As they exited the passage, the chamber opened up into an expansive grotto, glittering like a treasure trove. Crystals grew high on the walls, shimmering in various hues, reflecting the ethereal glow that provided fleeting warmth and terrifying beauty. It felt almost like a sanctuary until they caught sight of the pool in the center, its surface perfectly still yet sinister. "Is that water?" Lily whispered, pointing cautiously. But before Julie could answer, the pool bubbled, breaking the spell of tranquility. Figures began emerging, their faces twisted in fear and agony, hands grasping for air and service from an abyss they could not escape. "They need help," Lily cried, reaching out towards the figures. Julie's heart screamed at her to pull her daughter back, but she couldn't. She was lost between the urgency to protect and the desperation to listen. Yet deep inside, she could feel the truth rising in her soul. "Lily, no. They're trapped by this place," she shouted, pulling her back just as the laughter and our pleas melded into terrifying convergence. Before they could react, the water surged violently toward them, enveloping their feet. Shapes of claws and memories swirled beneath the surface. "Come join us," the voices sang, this time a sharp contrast to the earlier discordant whispers, a lullaby of everything they had lost, everything they feared. "No," Julie shouted as the darkness engulfed them. "Stay with me, Lily. We must leave." Clenching her daughter's hand tighter, they turned and ran toward the cavernous exit, only to see a wall of shadows closing in behind them. What lay beyond was a dark embrace clamoring for their surrender. But something deeper flickered within Julie. The love for her children burned ever brightly amidst the consuming dread. It was a bond that could overcome even this nightmare. "Hold on tight," Julie shouted, and with that, they sprinted toward the nearest wall shimmering brightly with trapped light. "If we can just reach that luminescence." With every ounce of strength, they dashed forward, hearts racing, terror aligned to a single goal. The shadows roared with anger, darting closer, the figures clawing at them. With one final push, Julie broke through, feeling Lily tugging at her hand, pulling against the weight of despair that threatened to drag them back. They broke onto the other side, plunging into the light, and suddenly, they were back in the sunlight of Lake Whisper. The forest stood still and silent, the water a mirror reflecting the clear sky above. Gasping for breath, they flopped down on the solid earth. Shaken yet alive, a contrast so awful it left Julie dizzy. Jake! Julie's gasped, the name breaking through the fog of relief and dread. Could he be safe too? Could he have gotten back from that monstrous embrace? Lily's face was pale, shocking against the brightness. Mom, we made it. But instead of answers, all she found was uncertainty mocking her back. The lake lay before them, deceptively serene in that single moment of stillness. It was easy to forget the horrors they faced. Don't look back, Julie whispered, pulling Lily tightly against her side. She could feel the weight of Lake Whisper, could almost hear the whispers tracing through the leaves behind them. In the depths of her heart, she knew they had escaped this time. But the impression lingered, that hunger, that darkness. Wherever they went, it would stay tied, like a dark shadow in their memories. What they had lived through would never leave. Yet deep down, she felt the stirring of resilience. They might have faced this nightmare and come through together. Mom, let us go home, Lily said softly. Yes. Julie took one last lingering look at the lake, its still waters hiding a multitude of secrets intertwined with danger. And this time she would not falter. They walked away, hand in hand into the sunlight, ready to embrace a future untainted by shadows. But somewhere, deep beneath that surface, the water shimmered, still watching, waiting for the next lost soul to wander too close to its edge. This unspoken truth lingered in the air, reminding them that courage stood firm among the shadows, always fighting to keep the darkness at bay. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm, it means the world to me. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this shocking conclusion. And for the love of stories, instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Only true fans know how vital your support is. So don't wait even one more second.